Connect on social media. Connect on Twitter. Connect with iPower One Nation. Stay connected with iPower One.
Now on iPower 2 News, a 9-year-old boy from the Bronx murdered in the Dominican Republic. We'll have the latest. Rapper Young Thug is on trial for what prosecutors say has committed crimes using rap lyrics. We have details. And why does the Big Apple has so many scaffolding around buildings that seems like an eyesore? iPower 2 This Moment starts right now.
From the Heart Planet Media Studios in New York, this is iPower 2 This Moment.
It is a heartbreaking story. As Dave said, that father and son had just landed in the DR to visit family when their car was ambushed.
Now we're learning one of the father's close friends may have orchestrated the entire thing. The boy was shot in the head and died at the hospital. The family flew from New York City to the Dominican Republic Wednesday when this tragedy happened. News 4's Erica Byfield's been putting together the details. Erica, we understand the National Police did make quick arrests.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're telling us, David. There are a lot of questions swirling about what happened in this case. We know that 9-year-old died after he got there from New York City, and people all over are demanding answers, including the president of the Dominican Republic.
En menos de 24 horas fueron apresados 5 hombres.
That's how police in the Dominican Republic announced the arrest of 5 men for the murder of a 9-year-old from the Bronx. Glossier Luis Feliz Camilo died Wednesday, shot in the head. Less than an hour after he got to the island, it happened while the boy was in a car with his father and at least one other person. His distraught dad says someone tried to mug them, cut the car off just after they left the airport.
Ellos se lo metieron adelante.
An emotional Sergio Luis Feliz told reporters, "We passed the toll, and it was after they got in front of us. We didn't stop, and we continued, and it was at that moment that they shot." The child's murder led the president of the Dominican Republic to tweet that he's following this case. He also said that he heard about the arrests and added justice must be ensured in the courts. Friday afternoon, Telemundo reported that the National Police arrested a 6th man, a friend of the boy's father, the same person the dad says that he turned to for comfort after his son's death. The police shared this surveillance image from their investigation. They say it helped them zero in on the men they believe are responsible for the crime. Investigators also said that the suspects rented this white car just before the ambush. Meanwhile, the boy's family is inconsolable, questioning what happened and why. The same sentiments that a priest shared as he urged authorities in the DR to protect its people.
Las autoridades deben brindar protección.
We should also tell you that the boy's family had a wake for him today in the Dominican Republic. Eventually, his remains will be flown back here to the U.S. As for the investigation, we're learning the police are also questioning 5 women that they say are connected to this case.
For Yadira Arroyo's family, this sentencing is a long time coming. 31-year-old Jose Gonzalez was convicted of first-degree murder in connection to her death back in March, and today he will be sentenced here in the Bronx.
Through ups and downs, anger, despair, emotion, agony.
44-year-old Yadira Arroyo had spent 14 years as an FDNY EMT and was a mother of 5 when she was killed. When her killer was convicted last month, her family and friends called it a relief.
But we finally did it, right?
Yeah. We did it. Investigators say Arroyo was in her ambulance near Watson Avenue at White Plains Road in March 2017. She got out of the ambulance when she was alerted that Jose Gonzalez was riding the ambulance's back bumper and of a robbery he was involved in. Gonzalez then jumped into the driver's seat and reversed it into Arroyo. She was pinned under the truck and dragged through an intersection before the ambulance crashed. She died shortly after.
A mother of 5 sons, working a great job and a great career, and to be taken away like that was just so unfair. 6 years is a long time, but as long as the verdict was correct and we got justice, I don't care how long it took.
Gonzalez originally pleaded not guilty, but was later deemed unfit to stand trial. Last fall, health officials determined him to be no longer an incapacitated person, and the case continued. At the conviction, the union that represents FDNY EMS spoke about the dangers first responders face every day while on the job.
Our EMTs and paramedics go out there day in and day out to help and save the public. EMT Yadira served this city as a hero, and she died serving the city as a hero.
Today's sentencing will take place at 10 this morning. In the Concourse Village section of the Bronx, Kieran Dillon, Pix 11 News.
My son has been missing from Saturday morning, a little bit before 10.
Nefertaria Cooper held flyers with her 13-year-old son's picture, and there's a poster with Rashawn Davis's photo pasted to the front of his middle school.
He does not run away for no days at a time.
Rashawn and his older brother were living for the past year with their father and stepmom in Brownsville after their mother got sick in Kansas City.
He wanted to go to a tryout, basketball tryout.
He wanted to go to a basketball training, but he didn't tell us nothing.
The stepmom said Rashawn was attending an after-school program to help with his studies, and that would have conflicted with basketball.
We took away his phone. He grabbed the garbage, went downstairs, and never came back up.
I had some medical issues, and his dad was taking care of him for the year.
To me, they'd be very pleasant, and that's the honest truth. They'd be very pleasant.
The teen's neighbor, Kay Graves, showed us the driveway where the local kids always play basketball, squeezing between a parked car and a house to show us the hoop and backboard where they honed their skills.
The only place the kids play is right here in the driveway.
Rashawn only turned 13 years old 2 weeks ago on September 10th, so he is certainly considered a vulnerable child. This is his flyer. The Black and Missing Foundation, which is based in Washington, D.C., reached out to us and asked us to profile his case. Rashawn's father and stepmom have been scanning the teen's phone for clues to his whereabouts.
Basically, he wanted to go with his friends, because when I looked through his phone, he was going to go with friends.
But no one has offered a solid lead yet.
Rashawn, wherever you are, mom is here in New York. Mom is not leaving. He's been raised in Kansas City with me. This is dangerous. New York is dangerous. Brooklyn is dangerous. Anywhere is dangerous. I need answers to where my son is.
Rashawn's mother said her son used to attend church with her at the Greater Pentecostal Tabernacle in Kansas City, but that was more than a year ago. Now he's in New York, meeting new people all the time. If any of you have information about Rashawn Davis, please call 911, and we have more details on our website, pix11.com.
Here locally, the NYPD trial started today for two officers involved in the shooting death of a black man in the Bronx back in 2019. Their interaction with Kowalski Treywick lasted less than 2 minutes, but it ended with a deadly shooting. News 4's Rana Novini live in Lower Manhattan with what happened in the disciplinary hearing today, Rana.
Yeah, and Natalie, supporters packed that room for this first day of the NYPD department trial, and it was an emotional day for many of them, especially when they played the police body camera video. Kowalski Treywick's parents actually stepped outside of the room when that video was played, saying they have seen it before, and they are convinced their son should still be alive. In a show of solidarity for the family of Kowalski Treywick, supporters greeted them as they left NYPD headquarters, the end of day one of a departmental trial against the officers who shot and killed Treywick in his Bronx apartment.
Why those police officers went to his home and took his life like that, I don't understand it.
Treywick's parents stepped out of the room when the judge played video of the deadly 2019 encounter. Officers say they were responding to a reported disturbance in the building after Treywick was locked out of his apartment. The fire department helped him back in. Officers Brendan Thompson and Herbert Davis arrived a short time later.
Why are you in my home?
Put it down. He's got a knife.
Yeah, I know. I got a knife because I'm cooking.
Treywick was holding a bread knife. Officer Thompson first used a taser on Treywick before shooting him twice. His family and supporters saying officers should not have entered, and that even after shooting him, neither officer helped him.
Kowalski was listening to music in his underwear, cooking in his home alone, where he should have been safe.
Among those in the courtroom, Gwen Carr, the mother of Eric Garner. Like the Treywick case, the officers involved in her son's death were cleared of criminal wrongdoing. But years later, the case ended up here for a trial focused on whether officers violated police department rules.
They've been fighting for 4 years. I had to fight for 6 years to get one officer fired. But we must fight.
The officers' attorneys argue Treywick had a knife and point out that the Bronx district attorney declined to bring charges. Treywick's family hopes to see the officers fired and say their son should have been safe in his home.
We will be here
to the end to see that these two officers are held accountable for taking Kowalski's life.
Yeah, and Trawick's family, his parents are here from Georgia for the trial. The trial, we understand, could last all week. And in the end, the judge will make a recommendation on disciplinary actions, which could include firing. It will then be up to the police commissioner ultimately to make that decision on how to move forward with the recommendation. Reporting live in Lower Manhattan, Rana Novini, News 4 New York.
Coming up on iPower 2 News, nationally syndicated radio star Angela Yee sits down with CBS Mornings talking about her career in media and ownership, and a longtime music legend spanning over decades to loyal fans around the world gets honored in his hometown in New Jersey.
You're watching iPower 2 This Moment in New York City.
Right, mi cariño. So like I said, everything I learned about cooking, I learned from Grandma's empanadas. Shall we go again? Yep. Mix beef with the onions with the peppers with the paprika with the garlic with the oregano with the cumin. Got it? Got it. Throw on the olives, stir, season, stir again, pour out the flour, roll out the dough, make a circle, drop in a fistful of filling, fold over, press down, and ta-da!
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush is easier, and it could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain.
iPower 1 HD is One Nation experience. Watch or listen anywhere on any device.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. As it turns out, we have very similar personalities. And this cat makes me make art because he's always motivating me to take pictures of him, to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. It's just that simple. Well, he's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Police are searching for a man who they say choked a 68-year-old woman who was walking down the street and then forced her into a garage. It happened on Webster Avenue and East 189th Street in the Fordham Heights section. That's where News 4's Mark Santia is live with the story. Mark?
Yeah, the woman was grabbed from here at Fordham Plaza. She was taken down the street into a garage where she was assaulted. Fordham Plaza is a bustling spot here in the Bronx with a Metro North stop and Fordham University nearby. Saturday morning, a parking garage in the area became a crime scene after police say this man attacked a 68-year-old woman. She was waiting to be picked up by her friend. Instead, police say her attacker, a stranger, put her in a chokehold, forced her from Fordham Plaza and into a garage here on 189th Street, then sexually assaulted her.
It's kind of disturbing that you can't sit here and wait for the bus and you gotta go to situations like that.
Word of the daytime sexual assault unnerving for those who live and work near the popular location.
It's bad, and it makes me feel and think about my mom. She's almost the same age.
Police tell me people saw the attack but did not try to stop it or even call 911.
It can happen to any of us. It can happen to any of the girls. It can happen to anybody. He's a crime. Oh my God. I can't even say what I want to say.
The suspect was last seen running south down 3rd Avenue wearing that orange sweatshirt. We're told the survivor was taken to the hospital for her injuries. Again, right now the search is on for that suspect. If you have any information, you're asked to call police immediately. You can remain anonymous. We're live tonight in the Fordham Heights section of the Bronx. I'm Mark Santia, News 4 New York.
More about the U.S. National Guardsman accused of leaking military secrets. Federal prosecutors are looking to convince a judge in Massachusetts today that Jack Teixeira should remain held without bond because he poses a national security risk. ABC's Justin Finch joining us live from Washington, D.C. with the very latest. Justin.
David, the Justice Department calling the accused leaker Jack Teixeira a serious flight risk and not ruling out that he may still have access to more classified records that may be of great interest to other nations that could help him escape from the U.S. Federal prosecutors fighting to keep 21-year-old Jack Teixeira behind bars. The Justice Department arguing in its court filing that the Massachusetts Air National Guardsman poses a serious flight risk and that Teixeira took a series of obstructive steps to prevent investigators from uncovering the scale and scope of his alleged actions. That federal filing charging that Teixeira instructed members of the social media platform where he allegedly shared classified information to delete all messages, and if anyone comes looking, don't tell them expletive. Teixeira out with his own filing today, asking the judge to release him on the least restrictive conditions. His public defender saying that the government's argument that a foreign adversary could seduce him to orchestrate his clandestine escape from the U.S. is without basis. As early as February 2022, prosecutors say government records show Teixeira began to access hundreds of classified documents containing national defense information that had no bearing on his role as essentially an IT support specialist. The Air Force now suspending 2 leaders from Teixeira's unit.
There's the investigation, the criminal investigation into Airman Teixeira, what he did. The other effort would be looking at the system as a whole, how the U.S. government keeps and holds classified and sensitive information.
Federal prosecutors also detailing the discoveries of a smashed laptop, tablet, an Xbox gaming console, and a trove of weapons, including handguns, bolt-action rifles, shotguns, an AK-style high-capacity weapon, and a gas mask upon searching Teixeira's residence. And the Justice Department describing the evidence against Teixeira as substantial and mounting, noting he already faces 25 years in prison on 2 Espionage Act violations.
You're watching iPower 2.
Tell the trees not to look for me. I'm going to find some peace of mind. Wake the sun, wake the sun, wake the sun, wake the sun.
iPower 1 is always on 24/7. Listen or watch us anytime. Plus, like and follow us on our social media.
More than a decade, waking up early for the breakfast show. How are you getting used to this new morning routine?
Well, not to make anybody here jealous, but I'm loving it, okay? I'm getting a lot more sleep. I feel a lot more well-rested.
Right.
And I get up in the morning, and I do things like the dishes, laundry, clean up a little. I was always 20 minutes, gotta go when I was on the Breakfast Club.
Yeah, of course.
Now I can go to the gym. No excuses.
Oh, so you're waking up early, getting it done. Okay, so Way Up with Angela Lee includes segments like Shine a Light on Them and also Tell Us a Secret.
Yes.
So what is your vision for this show moving forward?
Well, like you said, it is very fast-paced, and that was the vision for it, to have a lot of segments that were snippets with a lot of information. You know, we have Wealth Wednesdays that happens once a week where we give financial advice, and we have experts come on. But it's also fun, so I want to make sure the information is fun. Tell Us a Secret is a really popular segment where people call in anonymously and just tell things that they wanted to.
It gets real spicy.
Oh, I very love spicy.
Oh, I love it.
Call in.
That's great.
I want to give a shout out to the Breakfast Club because you were there for 12 years. I loved you and Charlemagne together and DJ Envy. Why did you decide that now was the time?
You know, I had.
But on your own.
I always knew, even when I first started doing the Breakfast Club, that I wanted to eventually have my own show. I came from having my own show at Sirius. And so in my head, I was like, okay, I'm doing this, but I do want to have my own show. And I have my podcast. But I've been talking to iHeart about it. I thought I would have to have my own show and stay on the Breakfast Club, which would have been double duty.
Yeah.
But in my head, I said, I'll do it, and then I'll be able to transition into that and make it successful. But fortunately, after the pandemic, they came to me and said, Angela, let's
Now
just
is
do
the
it.
time. Since I am very happy for you, as you know, and I love the three of you together, but I also am a big fan of new chapters.
Yes.
So not only are you doing the podcast, she's a businesswoman.
Talk about it.
Just heard that you just closed on a deal in Detroit.
Oh, yes.
Building.
Yes, that was 2 days ago, a 30-unit building,
Yeah,
which
like
I'm
that.
very excited about in Midtown Detroit. And I actually put together a group of women, of black women, to do that deal. And so I want to.
Detroit is booming right now.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity.
Detroit over here.
Detroit.
And you have a coffee company.
Yes, Coffee Uplifts
What does
People.
CUP stand for?
Coffee uplifts people, and that coffee is actually a coffee shop also in Brooklyn, but we do have a brand. It's in, Whole Foods. We're actually launching in Chelsea Piers starting on Monday.
Whoa.
So I'm excited for that, and Target in June.
Listen, you're a Brooklyn native.
Yes.
Your mom is black. Your dad is Chinese. How did that upbringing shape who you are today?
I think that growing up in New York and in Brooklyn and with different ethnicities, it helps you be a lot more empathetic toward people. Just because I had all these different cultures that I was dealing with, and I saw a lot of the different clashes. And so for me, I feel like in New York, when you're here, you see a lot, and it takes a lot to shock me. So even doing my podcast and doing my show, you would have to really do something off the wall for me to be like, this is crazy.
That's a fact. You got stone face most of the time.
Yeah,
and you hear a lot of crazy things.
All the time. And I see a lot of crazy things, and I know a lot of crazy things.
No doubt about it.
But are you having a great time in this new chapter of your life? I hope
I am.
for you.
I'm really happy. It's nice to curate my own content and to interview who I want to interview, and just being able to say, okay, I want this to happen, or different segments that I want that I know are going to be really exciting, that are working. I'm happy about it.
Well, Angela, I'd never bet against you.
No doubt about it.
And I might call in.
Thank you so
I might
much.
call in to tell me a secret
Yeah.
about me.
Sure. All right. Well, listen.
It's anonymous.
Okay. You're just getting started. Continued success moving forward. Angela Lee, we appreciate you. You can tune in to Way Up with Angela Lee weekdays from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on the iHeartRadio app or on radio stations around the country.
An honor for a native of Newark, New Jersey, who went on to become a Hall of Fame music legend.
Frankie Valli returned to his old neighborhood today as the community sings his praises. The high falsetto voice of the Four Seasons now has a street named for him. Eyewitness News reporter Tony Yates live in Newark with more. Tony.
Hi guys, Francesco Stephen Castelluccio. His parents and two brothers moved here to the Stephen Crane Villages back in 1940 when he was just 6 years old. He said it was a major upgrade from where they were before, and then he became Frankie Valli.
4, 3, 2, 1.
88 years young, Frankie Valli grew up here in the Stephen Crane Village housing projects with hope, determination, a falsetto voice to kill for, and buddies just as talented who backed him up as the Four Seasons. Their songs became instant classics. It takes those who know him best to talk about the honor today here in Newark.
What do you think about this?
I think this is amazing and spectacular and deserved.
Can you believe all those people who came? All these years?
I totally believe it.
It was family, but they were the East Coast Beach Boys. So, I mean, it was just wonderful as a kid watching them on that Sullivan show.
In my house, we always say the two Franks, Sinatra and Valli. So it was always in the house. We all loved his music. You couldn't not love Sherry. Big Girls Don't Cry, Can't Take. It was always in the house playing on Christmases and holidays. So I definitely grew up with it for sure.
He is just as humble as he is famous and loved.
Something to remember, forever. It's just one of the greatest
moments in my life. Tony, it's nice to see you again. I mean, I can't believe they named the street after me.
In all of these fans, I saw one woman with your picture on her jacket.
Yes, I saw that too.
That's amazing.
But it's been a wonderful day, really, and there's so much sentiment in Stephen Crane Village. I mean, for me, right up until I became successful, I lived here. So my mother lived here and died here.
And he took all the time in the world to snap photos with adoring fans.
It was just amazing to hear him tell his own story. He is as sensational as he ever was. So we hear, and fans who have tickets will see him tomorrow night at NJ Pack in Newark. His show, 8 o'clock.
You're watching iPower 2 This Moment in New York City.
Idle hands. They say they're the devil's workshop. Easy targets. Quick to kill time. Give idle hands something to do, a place to go, a purpose, and they're capable of amazing things.
Get online or on app. This is iPower 1. iPower 1. One nation under urban music. Listen now at iPower1HD.com for 98.9.
Is it time for New York City scaffolding sheds to get time limits? That's what Manhattan Borough President Mark Levine is proposing, who released a new plan on March 6th to shed the shed. The green structures we pass by every day have not only become part of the New York City landscape, but also a safety hazard and an eyesore.
At this point, there are over 4,000 sidewalk sheds, that's our official term, just in Manhattan. Enough to run from here to Montreal.
Inspections became required by law in the 80s, after a falling piece of masonry resulted in a fatality. So local laws 10 and subsequently 11 were born, which said that buildings taller than 6 stories had to have their facades inspected and repaired every 5 years. But elected officials say that scaffolding laws are, quote, overly complicated, pointing out that over 230 scaffoldings in the city have been up for more than 5 years, and that sheds are, on average, up for 498 days. They add the longer the shed is up, the more harm it can actually do. So why are they up so long in the first place? Well, projects can be delayed because of financial issues or city permits, and it can be cheaper to keep the scaffolding up than to actually repair the facade. Additionally, sometimes repairs can get complicated if it's an older building, which may have to involve the Landmark Society. So elected officials are proposing 5 strategies. Strategy 1, provide support for buildings who need help getting work done quickly. Strategy 2, reduce delays caused by permitting requirements and disputes with neighboring properties. Strategy 3, hold buildings accountable for failure to complete facade work in a timely manner. Strategy 4, update local law 11 inspection regulations and reform design standards. And finally, strategy 5, extend local law 11 compliance cycles in certain instances. This is not the first of its plan. Others in the past have also proposed to tackle time limits. The latest information from the Department of Buildings shows that, as of March 27, 2023, there are currently 8,974 active sidewalk shed permits.
Coming up in the next half hour, the Kennedy Center here in New York City honors a civil rights icon. And where are wiffle balls originally made that is so popular in games all over the world? We have that coming up. You're watching iPower 2 News this moment.
iPower 1.
Moms, we don't know how you do it all, but you do. You're part teacher, counselor, chef, and doctor. All rock star. And let's face it, being a mom today is complicated and sometimes unpredictable. But it's those precious moments that make your journey together crazy and wonderful. We know your family is why. That's why we're here for you. To make sure more of those moments happen. To make a healthier, longer life possible for you and your family. We've got your back. We're impacting laws that help shape healthier communities. But we can't do it without you, because moms are at the heart of change. So here's to you, Mom. Here's to your hustle, your strength, your love. Here's to impacting the health of our future. Moms United can make real change. Because life is why.
Cigarillo smokers be like, it's strawberry flavored, bro. Strawberry's never. Big tobacco be like,
We're going to turn now to that family tragedy in Brooklyn, and investigators are still trying to figure out what ignited a fast-moving fire that killed a mother and her 2 young daughters in their home early this morning.
The fire broke out in their 3rd-floor apartment in Bed-Stuy. The girls just 8 and 10 years old. The family is well known in the neighborhood, and residents there are devastated. Eyewitness News reporter Jim Dolan is at the scene with the very latest.
Lauren, the 3rd floor where the fire started was gutted by this blaze, but the whole building filled with smoke. So families with young children were waking up in that darkness and had to scramble to find a way out. A mother and her 2 young daughters didn't make it. Smoke charred the carved cornices above the windows of the old Bed-Stuy brownstone, where a mother and her 8 and 10-year-old daughters died this morning. A devastating family and neighborhood tragedy.
She used to walk her dog, the black dog, but she had her kids with her. I used to say, you can leave the kids with me. She said, no, because the morning air is good and they need their exercise. They need to start early. They're beautiful little girls. Beautiful little girls. And mom. Fantastic.
You can see how fire gutted the 3rd floor apartment where it started in a kitchen. Smoke filled the building, but residents don't report hearing a smoke detector in all the confusion. Sandra lives on the 4th floor with her 2 young sons, but didn't want to appear on camera.
I woke up coughing. I came out my bedroom. There was black smoke. I touched the doorknob. It was hot, but a lot of black smoke was coming, and I heard my neighbor say, get out, get your boys.
And the boys got out by climbing down the fire escape.
15-year-old was able to jump down. My 11-year-old, he was able to get down with the help of his 15-year-old.
Firefighters pulled the 3 from the burning apartment.
There was some burns to some of the patients, as well as smoke inhalation. They were not breathing at the time.
The 3 were later declared dead at a nearby hospital.
The 2 little girls were so happy. So you could tell they were loved, because they were happy. You could tell they weren't only loved. She treated them with love and showed them love. They knew they were loved.
The building can be repaired, but residents will not be allowed back in until it is. The fire department is now investigating how this fire started and whether the smoke detector was operating.
In other news now, on Long Island, police say they want to get a driver off the road before somebody gets hurt. They slapped handcuffs on that 23-year-old woman today on charges of driving without a license and speeding. This was after racking up 67 traffic tickets. This was Greg Sergel has the story from Patchogue.
Suffolk police spotted the car here along Sunrise Highway around 2 this morning. The young driver, police say, was traveling at about 95 miles an hour.
Officers pulled her over. They ask her for a license. She doesn't have it.
Police Commissioner Harrison says 23-year-old Janelda Camille had no license because it had been suspended 67 times.
And I'm just glad that we were able to stop this individual before she ended up hurting somebody or hurting herself.
According to New York's DMV, Camille had been issued 67 tickets in 12 separate incidents, including a crash back in 2021. But she never answered any of the summonses and was forced to surrender her license in February. Despite that, it appears Camille kept getting behind the wheel. Today we visited an address linked to Camille, but no one answered the door there.
I think it's really unique to find someone with 67 suspensions.
Defense lawyer John Powers represents suspended drivers. He doesn't know Janelda Camille, but wonders why she never came to court to resolve her many tickets.
Of course, it could be that they just want to thumb their nose at the system, but there also might be an underlying issue with that person.
There's something that we need to connect with DMV to make sure that we know these people and they're on our radar.
Right now, Commissioner Harrison says the DMV doesn't alert police about drivers with multiple suspensions. As for Janelda Camille, she'll now have to appear in criminal court this month and is facing possible jail time. The police commissioner hopes this case will be a lesson for her and all drivers. Greg Sergel, News 4 New York.
Now we're getting to the latest in the trial of rapper Young Thug. The 31-year-old is appearing in court today where a judge will decide if his own rap lyrics can actually be used in a RICO case against him. Thug, whose real name is Jeffrey Williams, is up against 2 charges: conspiracy to violate the RICO Act and also participation in criminal street gang activity. He faces life in prison. ABC News legal contributor and criminal defense attorney Shauna Lloyd joins me now. So this is a change of events from last year after Young Thug's lawyers argued that the use of these rap lyrics is racist and prejudice. So if a judge welcomes the use of rap lyrics, how do you think this might change the course of this trial?
It's going to change the course of the trial because now they'll be able to use all of these lyrics that were previously recorded, believing that they had artistic expression under the First Amendment, will now be able to be used against them. It'll be used as evidence that the state is alleging of these crimes that they're saying that he committed. So that's going to have a very chilling effect. It's also going to bring some challenges around that artistic expression and the First Amendment. That's going to spin off of this trial without a doubt.
So this case has definitely sparked a movement to protect black art and freedom of speech. And testifying today are experts on rap music, including the co-author of Rap on Trial, Eric Nielsen. So what are Young Thug's lawyers likely trying to prove by putting this type of witness on the stand, Shauna?
What they're trying to show is that artistic expression is protected by the First Amendment. Not only that, but let's remember that most rap artists are young black men. So essentially, by taking away that protection of artistic expression, you're targeting a very specific group of individuals because that's who's making this type of music. And so that's what they're going to push forth. That's what they're really going to hone in on and show that that is why these lyrics should not be introduced during this trial.
So if his lyrics are used in court, what impact could this have, for all the other artists in the future?
It's going to have a very chilling effect, Kira, because what you're saying is that you no longer have this freedom of artistic expression. Metaphor, hyperbole, those are all things that we hear in music every day. But now you don't have that sort of expression because heaven forbid you're tied to something later. These words can now be used against you. So it's going to have a very chilling effect on music, on the music industry as a whole, especially on rap music.
And now jury selection, I understand, is in its 4th month. How unusual is that?
It's not unusual in the case of this magnitude. These jurors have to be able to be committed to being at this trial every day for 6 to 9 months. The average individual cannot just take away that time from work, from their children, from picking up their child responsibilities and other caregiving responsibilities. So that's why we're seeing a large number of jurors that have not been seated for this particular panel just as yet. And let's remember, there's also 14 defendants. So once we move past the hardship phase, each of these defendants has the right to question the juror to determine if there's any potential bias, if there's any sort of thoughts that the juror may have preconceived about these individuals, about rap music, about artistic expression. So this could be a very long process.
All right, Shauna Lloyd, we'll follow it. Thanks so much.
Up next on iPower 2, New York pays homage and tribute to the late great civil rights icon Harry Belafonte. And did you know that wiffle balls were originally made in the Constitution state? We have that story coming up in this half hour. You're watching iPower 2 News on iPower 1 HD New York. Watch us anytime on our YouTube channel or check us out on our official website at iPower1HD.com.
Look at your face. And your hands.
Oh, it's still getting worse.
Is it your allergy? There were peanuts in the brownies, right? Peanut butter. Oh no, I forgot. What? She asked you. Call 911, so sorry.
Okay.
Every 6 minutes, life-threatening food allergies send someone to the hospital. Always avoid your allergens and talk to your doctor about a prescription treatment you should carry for severe reactions. Learn more at faceyourrisk.com.
There's always something interesting while on the roads.
See the best in the tri-state area.
The iPower 2, mobile on the road, moving forward.
Alvin and the Chipmunks want to remind you, bacteria can hide in food and make you ill.
Wow!
But you can keep bacteria from ruining your day with 4 simple steps. Clean.
I'm waiting for the rinse cycle.
Separate. Cook. And chill.
We chipmunks are notoriously tidy.
Check your steps. The road trip to food safety starts at foodsafety.gov.
He was indeed a man of action, Harry Belafonte. And now, to celebrate his life and his penchant for not wasting time, Lincoln Center, not wasting a second.
Yeah, right now, across the street from where we are, a quickly organized celebration of the life and legacy of Belafonte, who died yesterday, just a few blocks away at the age of 96. The artist and performer who became a Pied Piper for the civil rights movement.
Eyewitness News reporter Sonia Rincon, live at Lincoln Center in the middle of this Belafonte tribute. Sonia.
Bill, people gathered here have been handed these cards with lyrics on them to the Banana Boat song, also known as Deo, and to We Are the World, and they're invited to sing along with a children's choir that is going to perform here, the Impact Children's Choir. This is a celebration of the legacy and life of Harry Belafonte, and what a life and legacy. So many moments as an artist and activist in his lifetime of nearly a century that brought meaningful awareness, fought for change, and also brought joy. Tonight here at the Rev Anderson Fountain at Lincoln Center, Belafonte is being honored with those performances from the Impact Children's Chorus. And behind this memorial event is the Social Justice Foundation he founded. Belafonte named the Gathering for Justice. Belafonte founded it in 2005 to honor the principles of his dear friend, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and to speak out against injustice. Many of his messages over the years resonated with his fans. Some of them gathered here tonight to pay tribute.
He just used his voice for all the things that mean something, and is a wonderful human being. So it's nice to see people here. I was so excited when I saw it. I thought, that's nice. And I believe that music can be healing. I really do.
And we expect to hear from those who helped found that foundation with him. And of course, everyone here is getting ready to sing.
New York has a tentative budget deal that could bring changes to everything from the state's minimum wage to its bail laws. Eyewitness News reporter Derek Waller brings us the highlights and how the deal could affect you.
New York's state budget gets bigger and bigger every year. This is the largest budget in state history, and it includes a win for Governor Hochul on bail reform.
But I do believe that judges should have more authority to set bail and detain dangerous defendants.
Polls showed public safety was a major reason the 2022 race for governor was so close. Now Hochul says her budget fixes that controversial 2019 law.
Data shows that recent decreases in recidivism for the low-level offenses, that's positive, but increases in recidivism for defendants charged with serious crimes.
The $229 billion budget is nearly a month late, but it's not a done deal. They still have to vote on it, which is expected to happen early next week. And she says it includes $1 billion to tackle the mental health crisis, including 1,000 inpatient psychiatric beds.
The rates of mental illness have been on the rise, and the pandemic only made matters far worse.
She's also calling for an increase to the minimum wage, $17 an hour in New York City, Westchester, and Long Island by 2026, and statewide by 2027. The MTA also getting a bailout in the form of a $300 million one-time influx of cash, and then an estimated $1.1 billion every year from an increase in the payroll mobility tax on large city businesses. The plan also calls for adding one free bus line in every borough, 5 in total, but her plan to add more housing in the suburbs never gained traction. Housing costs have skyrocketed, making New York simply unaffordable for too many people.
That's why I proposed a bold housing plan, and I believe major action is required to meet the scale of this crisis. The legislature saw it differently.
The plan also calls for 14 new charter schools in New York City, 22 statewide. Hochul actually wanted 100 new charter schools, but she had to compromise with the left wing of her party.
He defined the daytime talk, tabloid television era. 35,000 gut-spilling, stage-brawling guests.
There ain't no way in hell you gonna get.
More than 4,000 shows fueled by countless fistfights and food fights. And we and millions every day loved watching him as the ringmaster of it all.
We go way back, you and I, don't we?
Yeah, and we survive. I mean, have people no taste? Why do they keep watching us?
You've always said that.
Well, yeah, well, I've got a mirror. That's why. I know.
And America did watch him for 27 seasons, but today, the legendary talk show host passed away in the Chicago suburbs. He was diagnosed just a few months ago with pancreatic cancer, and his health took a rapid turn for the worse in the last week. Jerry was 79. Jerry Springer was a ratings powerhouse, a show that showed off a rock'em sock'em side of society, a dysfunctional daytime guilty pleasure.
This is something that you do need to know. I was born a man.
And no one was more surprised by the show's success than Jerry himself.
I didn't even think the show had a heartbeat. It was only a 6-week contract. It's a stupid show. I mean, who are we kidding? It's just stupid. But it's a lot of fun to do.
But did he ever have a favorite episode?
As I said, they're all stupid. I guess, I married my horse.
When other people go out and, let's say rent adult videos, do you rent Mr. Ed?
How much do you miss the chanting of your name?
Well, I have an album here at home that's attached to my alarm clock. So when I get up in the morning, it's Jerry, Jerry, Jerry.
But before Jerry became the guy we knew, he was a politician, the mayor of Cincinnati in the late 70s.
If government, any government, is to have any positive effect on our lives, then that government must bear some relationship to how we live.
Jerry was also a Cincinnati television newsman who said goodbye to the anchor chair in 1993.
A viewer wrote to me yesterday, "You know how you always end your broadcast, take care of yourself and each other?" Yeah, it's a wonderful thought, all right.
Later, Jerry was on Dancing with the Stars, hitting the ballroom so he could learn to dance at his daughter's wedding. But it is this show for which he will be most remembered.
I am so sorry. I'd like to personally write an apology to every American. No, I've ruined the culture.
But Jerry would try and rehabilitate each and every show at the end with his final thoughts, a sort of moral commentary on the episode.
In order to be on our show, there has to be something out of the ordinary or outrageous about you.
It was also sort of a redemption for Jerry.
It's my only shot of getting into heaven. Because, at the last moment when I'm at the gates, I want to be able to say, "But God, don't you remember the final thought? Please let me in." Till next time, take care of yourself and each other.
You're watching iPower 2 this moment. Moving forward in the NYC.
Taught him how to hit a baseball, how to hit a receiver, the strike zone, the net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
Every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. NYC. Can't get enough of the championship leader fighting for truth, justice, and equality? Keeping it real with Reverend Al. Sunday mornings on 107.5 FM. New York's #1 source for R&B. Wake up, NYC. It's Sunday mornings with Reverend Al. Log on to WBLS.com and continue to listen to Keeping It Real with the Reverend Al Sharpton. Weekday afternoons, 1 to 4 p.m. Eastern. Log on now to nationalactionnetwork.net.
They slow down and move over. That is the warning for drivers this morning coming from AAA, and it does not only apply to emergency vehicles. Just this week, a worker with the Department of Transportation was struck and killed on the Grand Central Parkway while on the job.
So these accidents are unfortunately becoming more common. So joining us this morning is AAA Northeast spokesperson Robert Sinclair. Good morning, Robert. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so let's talk about the accident that happened this week, a fatal accident on the Grand Central Parkway. It's one of many this year. Can you break down the numbers for us?
Well, in fact, if you look at last year, we had 51 people killed at the roadside, and 22 of those were tow truck drivers. Wow. And 4 were police officers. Wow. So would you believe being a tow truck driver is more dangerous than being a police officer, at least when you're by the roadside? So far this year, we've had 13, 6 with tow operators, And in just the last 3 days, three roadside workers or tow truck operators have been killed, including the one that you mentioned on the Grand Central Parkway. We don't have all the details about that crash yet, but slow down and move over. People obeying those laws would help cut down on this tragic toll.
Right. So Robert, I don't know if there's an answer to this, but why do you think we are seeing more of these kinds of accidents, right? Why is it more dangerous to be a tow truck driver? And why do drivers in New York have to be even more careful? Are things different here?
Well, I think we got into a lot of bad driving habits during the pandemic when those who were driving with the open roads during the lockdowns just went kind of crazy. We did a speed camera study and found that some speed camera tickets in New York City after the lockdown on March 17th until the end of June went up by 1,200%. As traffic has returned to the roads, we're seeing that these bad habits are remaining. And New York has its particular set of circumstances because of the congestion here. When a tow truck driver is by the side of, and we're not talking about the highway, a local street, a primary, secondary, tertiary street, they are exposed to the traffic because of the narrowness of the road. Sometimes they have to set up cones to get traffic to go around. Sometimes the street is so narrow when they're trying to tow a disabled vehicle, they have to block the entire street, and that creates frustration on the part of other drivers. And we've had our drivers had the water bottles thrown at them, people go and bang on their vehicles get sideswiped by other vehicles, and some of our drivers have been assaulted. So it's not just the vehicles, it's the people as well.
Wow.
Yeah, well, so the AAA, though, you're taking action to expand the slowdown, move over law. So can you tell us how this works exactly? Just lay it all out for us and how it would help.
Yes, there's pending legislation that would expand slow down, move over to disabled civilian vehicles, to those that have their hazard lights on or who have flares displayed. From 2016 to 2022, 37 disabled drivers were killed by the roadside in New York and in New Jersey. Connecticut, which has the expanded law that covers civilian vehicles, saw 11 killed during that time frame. So, one death is one too many, but at least there are fewer in Connecticut, and we think because of the expanded law there, and we're trying to get it expanded in New York. But when you see the flashing lights, drivers have to slow down and move over if they can change lanes safely.
Yeah, and what about just everyday drivers, right? Because if you don't have the flashing lights, that's you're already in a predicament, right? So for everyday drivers, while they wait for a tow truck to arrive, what should they have maybe in their trunk or in their car to keep them safe?
Well, reflectorized triangles would be very good, and you set them up behind the vehicle in a way, usually three are best, and you set them up so that it channels your vision, channels vehicles away from your vehicle. But the best thing to do if you're broken down, whether it's by the side of the road or you're stuck in traffic, as happened to me one time when my engine failed in the middle of the road, stay in the vehicle. The vehicle has crash protection systems that will help you in the event that you do get struck. A lot of these people that we're seeing that are struck when their vehicle is broken down are going to get help. They try and cross the highway, try and walk across the highway. That's a formula for disaster, and we're seeing just too many people that are that's happening to. But when your vehicle breaks down, you get into a panic, and you don't know what to do. So here's the information: stay with that vehicle if you get to the side of the road. Unfortunately, our roads are old and they lack modern transportation facilities in many cases, meaning a lot of them don't have breakdown lanes, and that's why they get into trouble.
Well, great advice, Robert Sinclair from AAA Northeast. We always appreciate having you on the show. Great advice.
Thank you very much for having me and being able to get this message out. Thank you.
Important.
Yeah, and one well-known ball is actually made right here in Connecticut. Here's News 12 Connecticut's Mark Sudol.
Ready?
A backyard game
Nice.
that's been a hit with kids for generations.
This shakes you out.
And it started right here in Connecticut.
Wiffle ball.
It was all kind of trial and error. There was no science behind it. And the design that worked the best was the design that we have now for our wiffle ball.
Dave Mullaney says his grandfather got the idea for a plastic baseball he and his son designed. That ended up being the wiffle balls we now use 70 years later. He says the name was easy.
you swing and miss, you whiff. They just started calling the game wiffle.
I can smell the plastic.
Yeah, you can.
Mulaney showed us how the balls are made at the wiffle ball headquarters in Shelton.
Everything starts out like this.
That material is pumped into these machines. The end result is two halves, one with holes and one without. The two halves are then made whole.
They're put together, sealed, a little bit of trim comes off, and that's a ball.
Hey kids, Whitey shows you how to throw curves immediately, just like a major leaguer, with the fabulous original wiffle ball.
Yankees pitcher Whitey Ford showed kids how to throw a wiffle ball in the 1950s. At one time, major leaguers were even on the boxes. Wiffle ball is in the Baseball Hall of Fame and the Smithsonian.
Did you ever imagine it would become what it is today?
Even on my ride home, my short ride home from work, I go past a couple houses and kids are out there playing, so it's really nice to see.
Michael, save us!
There are even wiffle ball leagues and tournaments around the country.
What pitch from North, strike three?
Like Major League Wiffle, based in Michigan.
Yeah, I've been playing since I was a little kid. I love it. I love how it can, bring people together.
Mulaney says wiffle ball makes 1 million balls a year that are shipped all over the world. He's been working here with his brother Steve for 40 years.
So who's going to carry this on after you and your brother?
I don't know. What are you doing?
Mulaney threw me a curve with that answer. I'm sure he'll make his best pitch. In Shelton, Mark Sudo, News 12 Connecticut.